her to come tonight because since this is all about self-help, she actually, I'll let her kind of explain, but anybody that has pain, has sleeping problems, anxiety, and also inflammation, and also people that have cancer, I refer to Suzanne and her product line. There are so many research projects showing the medicinal and correct use of cannabis and the cannabinoid receptors that are in the human body and what they're actually made for. And so one of the things I wanted to do tonight was show you guys how to do some treatment on yourself for knees, for shoulders mostly, but it can be applied anywhere basically. And so I just asked Suzanne if she would come since she's the manufacturer of the product that we use, and I look at her as the town's best resource. I just asked her to tell a little bit about it, and I'll show you then what product we use on our patients and what one we actually recommend to our patients. So Suzanne, thank you.
All right. So I'll just kind of make this really quick. My company is called Earth Alchemy Holistic Care, and we create diagnosis-specific and strain-specific cannabis oil protocols for critically ill patients and patients that are dealing with chronic conditions. So that's anything from someone with stage 4 metastatic cancer to a neurological disorder, pain, like chronic pain issue. Then there's the kind of emotional, psychiatric part of it, and then everything in between. Inflammation's a big one too. So there's people that are actually treating something and looking to holistic medicine to help mitigate that. We work with a lot of different plants. None of them are the same. This is not just cannabis. That's just a blanket term. These are strains of cannabinoid-rich and terpene-rich medicines that come from cannabis plants and sometimes hemp. So when I say hemp, that means plants that are high in CBD and low in THC. So we've all heard of CBD. It's everywhere, right? THC, people say, oh, that's the stuff that makes you high. And my response always to that is that's a dosing issue. And so when dosed properly, the therapeutic effects with something with some THC in it is incredibly powerful and doesn't even mean that you'll feel it. There's a lot of different applications for that. What y'all can carry here at Health and Balance is something in the hemp category, okay? So anything with THC in it, then people can come to us. We work under caregiving law. We don't have a store, we can't by law here in Laguna Beach, but we can offer a caregiving service. So we are technically cannabis caregivers and work under caregiving that can be as a caregiver. And so that we can do. Here we do have a hemp line that can be carried in people's offices. And so that one is really nice too. So, and again, that's kind of something that can cover a broad range of issues. Yes, the salve is amazing for anything, pain related. I put it on my neck. It's incredible on feet. There are certain, you might find that it approaches pain more powerfully in one way and not in another. There's a million different types of pain, and you might find that it's more powerful for one than the other. And then we also have tinctures that we can carry here, and they're hemp derived, and that's really good for inflammation and pain as well. When we work with
if a person did have I was just going to ask about pain. If a person did want to use like an internal tincture, maybe as well as a salve, how would they usually dose that with the relief product?
So you always want to test your tolerance. We find that people respond really, really well to it. It's very, very easy to take, but sometimes people are nervous and want to go on a little trust walk. So then you try a drop, between 1 and 5 drops under your tongue. Wait a few hours, and if it's like, okay, well that was easy, then keep bumping up your dose. I take a dropper full at a time, and I'm fine.
And that's about 25 drops.
A dropper full would be probably more like 40.
40 drops.
Yeah, so, half a dropper is gonna be, about, and like at the 0.5 mark, so it's about 1 ml. And, yeah, and then as far as, you know, a lot of people come to us for actual cancer treatment, and this is to activate the endocannabinoid system. So we all have what's called an endocannabinoid system in our body, and within that, we have receptors. Every mammal has this underlying regulatory system. And the amazing discovery in science is that the plant has the identical system. So these plants are here to support human life. So they've gotten a bad rap, but when taken appropriately and in a way that's in alignment with you and supportive of you and what you're going through, they're incredibly powerful. And can be an amazing addition to that. We have people get off opioids and their NSAIDs and their SSRIs. So we're, you know, helping people with anxiety disorders and things that we can do holistically with plant medicine rather than pharmaceuticals if that's in alignment with you. But we do have people that come to us just for that, as well as a million other things. So
Thank you so much for coming.
you are so welcome anytime. So if anybody has any questions, they're feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great night. Yay!
She had no engagements, but I asked her if she would be willing just to come, let you meet her. I'll be demonstrating how we use, the products that she has, and then if that's anything that anyone's interested in. So now I want to just show you how to make, if you, want your own rehab material for a knee or a shoulder injury, you basically take a blank one like this. Yellow is the easiest one to use. I just give myself about that much, and just like tying a water balloon when you were a kid, you basically take 2 fingers, wrap it around, and then bring that loop through there, and this is going to give me a handle for my TheraBand. This is called a TheraBand, and you always want to start with very light TheraBands. The yellow is the lightest one, so that's where a person would start if they want to start strengthening. If you're injured, you don't want to start aggravating the muscle by doing too much strengthening. You want to do some of the other things that I'm going to be showing you. But I would basically do that on each end, and now this gives me an exercise device once my pain levels are down, so that I can actually really start to strengthen and rehab. And you can use this for every movement of the shoulder and every movement of the knees, and I'll be demonstrating how to do some of that stuff for you tonight. So I like to start these talks off by making sure that I'm going to cover all the information that each of you actually got motivated to come here for. So could you tell me real quick your name, if you're willing to share, and what is it that most interested you about coming here tonight?
My name's Chris, I'm arthritis.
Arthritis. And arthritis of the shoulders and knees? Okay, all right. Okay, good, thank you.
My name's Kimber, and I'm in great hands with Dr. Gary and Dr. Jordan and the whole team here with my recovery. And I'd like to learn about preventative healing better to make sure that as I get back into things, I don't overdo and
Okay.
overstrain.
Good, all right.
Marilyn, just want to know more about how to take care of the shoulders. How's the
Okay.
problems?
Great.
Right, same thing, I just want to know a little bit more.
Okay, great. Are you more interested in shoulders or knees or both? Just
Shoulders mostly.
shoulders, okay, all right.
Should you have frozen
I have frozen
shoulders?
shoulders,
Oh.
both shoulders.
Oh, you do?
I did.
You did, okay. That is probably one of the most rewarding things to fix. Oh, could you turn off the air conditioning? We don't need it on anymore. And is it okay with you guys if we just open this up? You want to take in the view a little bit? And it's a nice warm breeze, so. Okay,
Marty, and I've had shoulder issues from time to time, but also have kind of sort of loose jointed is what I call it. I'm
you know,
not quite
your mom mentioned that almost like too
Double
much
joints or
movement.
something?
Yeah, I mean, I've at times I've been at the gym where I've done like tricep push downs and had my shoulder sort of pop loose.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right, so strengthening so that you don't have an instability type of thing.
yeah, probably.
Okay, good.
I'm kind of here as the caboose on the Maryland Express.
He's the alien, there's nothing wrong with that.
All right.
I'm Liz, and I recently, a couple of years, been diagnosed with arthritis in my knee. I'm almost bone on my right knee, and I can get around okay, if I don't have to walk too far, but going up and downstairs is tricky and painful, but I still play pickleball.
Still play pickleball? Okay, good. All right.
It's one sport I can do that adversely affects me.
Okay, good.
You're here to learn to prevent future injury,
Okay. Most knee and shoulder, or just in general?
primarily shoulders.
Primarily shoulder. Okay.
Just when you're here anymore.
Okay. Nothing specific.
I originally was coming from my shoulders, then I had a big knee injury a couple days ago, but I want to try to avoid having shoulder surgery in this life, or knee surgery, like a lot of my friends
Yeah.
have had it, and I don't see, it'd be nice to know how to avoid it.
Okay. Good. Good. All right. So I have a number of slides, and what I want to do is really make this really practical, that you really come home and leave here with some practical things.
Okay, everybody, how's the food?
Right.
Yay!
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. So if you guys want to finish up signing those once you're done, and then I'll grab them from you. And then Dr. G's gonna get going in a second. But just for you guys who are new that have never been to Health and Balance, a little bit about what we do. We've been here since 1987. Dr. Gary and Dr. Lisa are my parents, and they're amazing. I love them so much. But we do chiropractic and natural health care, so a lot of different modalities we incorporate into our treatments with people. But we basically help people to find the root cause of their symptoms, so that really we can help people not only get out of pain, but really fix those things long term, so that we get the body back to healing itself. And so that what tonight is all about, is helping you guys to understand some of the mechanics of the knees, the shoulders, what can be some root causes of issues with those things, so that instead of, just taking pain meds, or kind of just like, I'm gonna push through it and get through the pain and just keep doing the activities I love because I can't stop hiking or playing volleyball or whatever. Helping you guys to have some tools to identify what might be causing that. How can we, start going to the root first, give you some at-home protocols, tools you can be utilizing. And sometimes, we need to do a little bit more in-depth work and really assess what that is. So we'll give you some tools in terms of that as well. We'll give you some handouts tonight that you can take home and be using those protocols at home and all that good stuff. So also, we're always doing different workshops on other topics and stuff like that. So you'll see on your thing there that there's some workshops coming up. So we'd love to have you let us know which ones you're interested in. And even if you have some ideas of the other things you'd love to learn about, we're always open to workshops that would interest you guys. So welcome to everybody who's new, and thank you for being here, all of our patients. And then, we'll be kind of mingling after too if you have questions or all that good stuff. So I'll let Dr. G take it from here. And we've got Bay here and Dr. Melinda. So Bay's on our therapy team, and then Dr. Melinda is another one of our chiropractors here. So they're both here to help. Dr. Bay is going to be doing some demonstrations for you guys on some of this stuff, and then we have the team here to support you. So thanks for being here, everyone. You're welcome. Of course.
So I'm a veteran of a lot of injuries, and sometimes I think of myself almost like Evel Knievel. Who remembers who Evel Knievel was? He had lots and lots of injuries, and I even had a really good injury just 3.5 weeks ago. I was in the wilderness with my wife, and it's an old Native American area, so I wore my moccasins, and I was just kind of in the moment of it, and it was a rather warm day, and 50 feet from the end of my walk, there was this granite rock that was kind of like this, and sure enough, when I put my foot on it, I slipped. I went down hard and fast, tore up my right leg, and I put my hand down, and all of a sudden, before I knew it, I slid 10 to 12 feet down the rock, and my hand ended up over my head. I heard things pop, and I just was hoping it wasn't dislocated or nothing was broken. I got to the bottom of the rock and just gushing blood, and I couldn't move my arm, and I go, okay, well, it could have been a lot worse, thank you God for that. But here I am now doing rehab care on my shoulder again. I've dislocated it, I've separated it, I've torn my rotator cuff. But the stuff I'm gonna show you tonight is the way back to make it so you don't have to have a bunch of care from people, that you can do as much as you can on your own, so you don't need as much care. You don't have to invest as much of your resources to get care. So if I was to specialize on a joint of the body, I would probably say the shoulder is the one that is the most complex, but the one that I probably know the best. And knees, I find knees are so darn easy to fix. Knees are usually, when they get to degenerative arthritis, it means that there's been a tracking issue for a long, long time. In fact, Bay, if anybody's still down there, if you could get my shoulder model and my knee model, I want to demonstrate something. But 95% of the knee problems, well, let's just talk quickly about this. You have the collateral ligaments on the side help to stabilize it so it doesn't, go sideways one way or another. The ones in the middle, those are the stabilizers from front to back, anterior and posterior ligaments, and then you have the meniscus. The meniscus is usually the medial meniscus that wears out in arthritis, and it's usually the most common meniscus to be torn. And so if you look here at this next one, now this shows you from the front, this was from the back. And you have the patella there. Now the most common challenge is a tracking issue, which I'll show you, but it really has to do with what's going on. This is the lateral knee. That's actually an A to P knee. Shows the anterior and posterior cruciate ligaments. You see the anterior right in the middle. And let's see if we see the ones in the back. Shoulder. All right, it doesn't show us the muscles in the very back. So these are muscles that attach to the knee on the side of the knee and the front of the knee. Now the other ones that affect the knee that are on the back of the body are the glutes, the glute maximus here, glute medius here, and another one called the tensa fasciae lata, which you see up there. So it's the orchestration of how these muscles work together or don't work together that either gives us a knee problem that eventually turns into an arthritic problem or not. Kind of like if your front end was out of alignment, you did get them? Oh, thanks. If your front end was out of alignment, then what would happen to your tires? They wear out, right? And this is the same thing. So the most common thing that I find, 95% of the knee problems that people have, is because there's been an old injury or a pull in the low back. What the body does when it gets injured is you have a 3-day inflammation cycle, and then your body goes into the repair stage beginning 5 days after injury. Now, what happens in the repair stage? Does anybody know? No? Marilyn, do you remember?
Inflammation, probably starts.
Inflammation is in the beginning,
Right.
and then that triggers the repair stage. Now, what happens in the repair stage is the body starts to lay down tissue to restore what had been torn. So let's just say that a person was skiing or they got tackled in soccer and that tissue gets torn like this. So the body's gonna come in with scar tissue, or adhesions is what they're called, and start laying it down for the next 12 weeks. That's why if someone has surgery, they have 12 weeks of PT post-surgical. If they have a bad injury, you have 12 weeks of care that's needed. on a whiplash or anywhere else in the body, you need a minimum of 12 weeks of care to make sure that as it's healing, it's being stretched, it's being massaged, it's being adjusted, so you don't end up with this big, massive scar tissue. When I was young, which was a long time ago, they would even take a badly sprained ankle and cast it. But what they found out is if you don't keep it moving during that 12 weeks and you cast it, then you're going to end up with all this scar tissue, and then that scar tissue, if the joints aren't moving, it'll start to calcify and it'll lead to degenerative arthritis. Now the other thing that leads to degenerative arthritis in the knee, if you have the scar tissue back there and it's making it so that the biggest joint in the body is the sacroiliac joint. It's right here in the back where the dimples are. It's the biggest joint in the body, and every time we walk, it's supposed to be going like this, like that, like this, like that. If it's not mechanically doing that because of an old injury to the low back, which California OSHA did a study on little boys, and they found that by the time an average little boy is 6 years old, he's had approximately 200 significant traumas, about one every 2 weeks growing up as a baby. And if they have big older brothers, they have more injuries. Right? So layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of these things, and this is how we end up with degenerative arthritis. Now there's a famous medical doctor that says that aging of the spine and aging of your joints and the age of your body is not synonymous. So I've had 85-year-old patients that had perfect posture and no arthritis in their spine. But I've also had a 19-year-old boy that was an infant in a car accident with a big bone spur in his neck because his neck healed completely the wrong way. So much pressure of gravity pushing down on that living tissue. And then it's something called Wolff's Law, where the body, if a live tissue has too much pressure on it than what it was designed to do, the body starts saying, give me reinforcements, increase my density. So the body starts sending the minerals into that scar tissue, and it calcifies, and the disc degenerates. And if the joint isn't moving, it's fusing. If a joint isn't moving, it's degenerating. If a joint isn't moving, it's hurting, right? So it all comes down to where there's movement, there's life. There's movement, there's less pain. It's all about finding a way to restore the movement. And if I could send you home with one, one bit of take-home message, that if a person restores their posture and they restore their normal range of motion, most of the challenging problems structurally will go away. But doing that is much like a decision to put braces on your kid's teeth. There's a process that you have to go through to straighten crooked teeth, right? How long does it usually take? Who knows? Anybody have braces?
2 years.
About 2 years, yeah. And then what do you do when the teeth are now straight and the braces come off? What do you do?
Retainer,
Retainer. Why?
to keep the teeth from moving back to where they were.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's true. So fixing people's bodies is a lot like that, but how do we do it fastest, and how do we do it with the least amount of cost to the patient so people can go on vacations and buy motorhomes or surfboards or whatever they want to do, or property, whatever. So I don't want people to have to spend money on healthcare that they don't need. So here's the most common deal with the knee. You have a tight, this is a right knee because the fibula bone is over here. I think it shows it back here. There's the fibula right here. So two bones in the knee. So you have the femur up there. So here's the femur, right knee. The tight glute back here twists the knee this way. I'm going to take the kneecap out of the way. It twists your knee this way. And now you're walking, and look what you're doing to your medial meniscus. Boom, boom, boom. It's a tracking issue. This is 95% of the injuries are to the medial meniscus, and it wears it away. And when it all could have been avoided, had someone checked you for a tracking issue and showed you how to release all the tension in the glutes and strengthen the opposing muscles. Okay? Most of it can be completely avoided. Okay? So that's good news. If it's not completely fused, And there is still some, because a lot of people like to use the term bone on bone. I just had a person say, oh, I got bone on bone, I got nothing left, I got a knee replacement. I looked at it, there was an 1/8 inch of cartilage. There was a 1/4 inch on the outside, but there was an 1/8 inch on the inside. It's not bone on bone. Yeah, if you don't do something about it, it's gonna be bone on bone, and you're gonna need a knee replacement. So anyhow, does that make sense? You understand what I'm talking about here? And so the best way to treat this is by using, do we have the ball back there? Could you give me a ball there, Faye? Thanks. So these things are worth their weight in gold. We sell them for the same as Amazon. I think they're $99. But you hold it down for 5 seconds, the vibration turns on, and now you have a physical therapy device that you use on your own that doesn't cost you, you don't have to have anybody do it. What we do is we have people lie on their bed, lift their butt up in the air, put it down around that SI joint. After we've checked how much motion, do they need to do more on the left side or the right side, or is it equal? Then we have them put it there, and then we have them do stretches with their knee up while this is underneath to break up all that scar tissue, right? So these little self-help things, this is by the company Hyper Ice. They're the ones that make the massage gun, and they've gotten so popular they just went completely wild. And then we have a foam roll that has the machine in it as well, vibrational machine. So you get a lot more out of your home care if you're using vibration as well. And that's how we would start to fix a knee. Because if you start doing a lot of exercises, like you said when you're bending, you know, if you've got that tracking issue, it's going to inflame. And so then now you're looking at, well, now I can't bend my knees anymore? I mean, what kind of quality of life is that, right? So if you start to understand what are the mechanics, what's underneath it, then it starts to be easy to determine how to fix it, okay? Any questions about that concept? Because the knee for me is, if I don't have to refer for surgery, I just love it. I have the best knee and shoulder surgeon in Orange County. It's a personal friend of mine. Usually it takes 3 months to get in. If someone does need surgery, I text him and he says, oh, we'll get him in tomorrow. So if we ever have to go that far, that's not a problem. All right, all these different muscles are all part of the orchestration of how the knee is tracking and how well it's working. There's more ligaments and tendons in the knee. There's a meniscus looking straight down. The medial meniscus is where most of the tears are, like we talked about. You can actually see there's a torn meniscus right there in that one right there. Can you see that tear in it? Now, if you get a tear like that, good chance you're gonna need surgery to stitch that thing back up. So hopefully we can catch those things long before they happen. This is a total knee replacement. My 98-year-old mom had one 2 years ago, and it really helped her. She needs another one at 98 and a half. And I'm not sure if my doctor friend who did the knee replacement will take her on at that age. Knee function, yeah, not important. Shoulder anatomy, you can see the musculature on the shoulders. Now, I was telling Bill, there's only one place where your shoulder is attached to your torso. Only one. Does anybody know where it is? Can you tell by looking at that? Clavicle, that's right. It's right here. So just feel your clavicle, and this is the only place your shoulder attaches to the rest of your body. One joint. So that's why I say it's so complex. You have 3 bones that make up the shoulder girdle. And so the rest of it is all muscles. All muscles and ligaments and tendons. Muscles of the shoulder, lots in the front, lots on the arm, lots in the back, lots coming down from the neck. I mean, it's a very complex joint, yeah.
both frozen shoulders preceded or followed a tennis elbow kind of.
Right.
Is that common? Is that
Really common. Why do you think that is?
same thing as the knee, right?
Right. And usually, the most common thing, unless you have a specific injury that, you know, like I just had, just doing something stupid and falling, it usually comes from these abnormal mechanical things. And the shoulder is, well, let's just say there's a toaster, a blender, and a coffee maker hooked up to these 4 plugs right there. And all of them are on at once. What can commonly happen? Flow fuse, right. And so the fuse box to all the muscles of the shoulder, it comes out of the neck in these C4, C5, C6, C7, T1. These nerves here. So commonly, if there's impingement in the neck at all to the electricity getting through into the muscles, then those muscles can be underpowered for the workload that they're being asked to do. So that's one thing. Nerve supply from the brain is a generator and is sending the electricity down through the spinal cord, out from the neck, into the arm and hands. Okay? So that's number one. Number two has to do with those adhesion patterns that we talked about. There's a reason I talked to you about how do we end up with these weird problems. Well, it's usually we didn't know how to manage our injuries correctly when we were younger. And they said, you know, it's not broken, it's not bleeding, you'll be fine, kid. Okay? I was asked by my dad, my second dad was a fireman. My first dad was a minister, he died at 39. And my mom fortunately met this wonderful fireman, and he kind of raised us. I was only 9 when my dad passed away. One time at our house, he said, well, Gary, we were doing a construction project. He says, I want you to take all these pieces of plywood and I want you to cut them up into small pieces and put them in the trash can so we can get rid of them because they're big, weird pieces. I said, okay. He says, use the skill saw, be careful, I'll show you how to use the skill saw. Okay, get it. I'm using the skill saw, and all of a sudden the skill saw just starts smoking and it stops. I go, whoa, okay. Well, so when he gets back home, Gary, why didn't you finish the job? I said, well, Dad, your saw started smoking and burning. He goes, huh, that's a new skill saw. I don't know why that would happen. Can you show me just how you had it set up? And I had the blade, instead, since it was only like 3/4 inch plywood, I had the blade all the way set to go through a big piece of wood. Number one, it created a lot of friction. Number two, he said, can you show me how to set up? I said, I just, use the extension cord and hooked it up and, it's cutting away. He goes, can you show me that extension cord? I said, oh, just a regular extension cord. He goes, could you show me the one you use? It's one of those little brown ones. He goes, you use that extension cord? Well, yeah, it's an extension cord. He goes, that will not carry enough power to drive the demands of that saw. And that's the same thing that ends up happening to our knees and to our shoulders. If you don't have enough electrical supply getting from the brain down through the spine and out to the peripheries, we're gonna have problems. So that's why we really take a close look at that, because if we miss that diagnosis, and you can get all the physical therapy you want, but if you've got a kink in the hose, the water's not gonna get through to take care of the plants and keep them healthy, right? So that concept I wanted to make sure you guys knew as well. So lots of different muscles, they can be on, or here's the interesting thing, if you have that matrix of scar tissue, now with frozen shoulder, you don't have full range of motion. You can maybe lift that, that really hurts now. And a lot of times the inflammation here starts leading to abnormal mechanics, which then creates inflammation, and now you have that whole cycle again. So you gotta work on the adhesions. This is one of the things I wanted to do with you, which if you want me to take a closer look, I can actually find, using a neurological muscle test and kinesiological testing, I can find out where those matrices of scar tissue are in your body, so then you know what to do at home, how to start getting rid of it. And if a person wants to go to a place like this and get deep tissue massage or get the therapies that we do, we know where it needs to be done. It's just not this random thing like, well, your whole body. No, it's very specific what you need and where you need it, okay? So now let's go here. There it is. There's the only place that it attaches. Now, there's the nerves I was talking about. See those yellow ones? Those are the ones that go to every muscle of your shoulder girdle and of your arm and hands. If there's impingement there, we're gonna have problems. And you can waste your money big time. Rotator cuff muscles. Anybody know what the synonym is for rotator cuff muscles? There's a way to remember what they are. Do you remember from your anatomy class when you were in kinesiology major?
What was the question?
The how to remember the four muscles of the rotator cuff.
Don't remember.
Okay. It's called, I know Dr. Melinda knows. What is it? Six. What's that stand for?
Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, subscapularis.
There you go. A plus. And we'll get back to the books. I did. But anyhow, supraspinatus is above the spine of the scapula. Infraspinatus is below the spine of the scapula. The spine of the scapula is that bone right across there that you see in the middle. Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and the subscapularis is interesting because it's underneath the scapula, in between your rib cage and the scapula itself. So 4 muscles of it. And they're very easy to check if you know how to find which muscle it is, put it in a contracted state and see if there's pain when you push against it. That's a normal orthopedic way of checking for muscle problems. Now here's the bursas. Sometimes we get inflammation of the bursa because of abnormal movement. If you don't warm up, Bill, can you tell me what happened when you threw that rock really hard and you didn't warm up?
Two old men having a contest.
And you paid the price. He had three days of couldn't hardly move his arm. So I'm going to show you tonight a simple routine to warm up your shoulders. So if you're ever lifting weights, or you're going to hit a volleyball, or you're going to throw a frisbee, or you're going to play catch with the kids, or whatever, using your arms and shoulders, I'm going to show you a way to warm it up. That is one of the very best things, and it's how I always rehab a shoulder injury when I've had them. And I'll show you that soon. But these bursas can get very inflamed and be angry. Okay, shoulder labrum. You see that labrum, that little blue, it looks like a half a moon. That's like a rubber band suction cup that holds the head of the humerus up into the shoulder girdle and keeps it from moving too much. But you can tear a labrum. Now we've rehabbed people's shoulders before, even with torn labrums, but the key is to make sure that the rotator cuff is working, because the rotator cuff muscles are what keep the head of the humerus up in that cup and keep it from moving too much. If you have a weak or torn rotator cuff muscle, then it can tear the labrum, and a lot of times the surgeons have to go in there and stitch that thing back up. So that's not the injury you want. So I did a really stupid thing with my son. I think he was about 6, and I was down playing volleyball and at Main Beach. And some people, have you ever competed against some people that just seem to want it too much? You know? And you're out there just to have fun. I beat this one guy who had a really bad attitude, and he's always so snarky. And so me and this kid, I'd never even seen this kid before, and he actually knew how to play, so we played him in doubles. And this guy almost tore the net down. He was so mad. And he goes, "That's ridiculous! I can't believe you won. You just go, let's go again." I go, "You want to go again?" I said, "Kid, you want to go again?" He goes, "Sure, I'll go again." He goes, "Okay, well, we beat him the second time." And he was really, couldn't believe that he had lost. And so anyhow, I was feeling pretty good about everything. And it was a summer night just like this. It was about this time of day. And my wife was up at, oh shoot, what's the name of it? Right where the little gazebo is. What's it?
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
up at, Las Brisas.
Las Brisas.
Okay.
She was there with some girlfriends having a margarita, and after we won, the guy I had 2 beers. We laughed and talked about the whole thing. I had 2 beers, and so I was a little bit uninhibited, and so my son goes, "Hey Dad, let's get in the water." I go, "Okay." He goes, "Hey Dad, do a front flip. Dad, do a front flip." I go, "Okay, all right, just go down, boom, do a front flip, land." He goes, "Okay, that was pretty good. Hey, do another front flip." I said, okay. So I did another front flip. He goes, "Dad, do another front flip." I go, "Right, really? I've already done 2. He goes, "I know, just do it again. I want to learn how to do it." I go, "Okay, do it again." He goes, "Do a backflip, Dad. Do a backflip." It was like Simon Says. That was so stupid. What was I thinking? I do a backflip off a diving board or off a rock or something, not where the water's this deep and it's going out. And I realized, I threw the backflip and I realized I'm not going to make it around. If I don't turn out of this, I'm going to land on my neck and I could break my neck. So I turned as I was coming down and I landed on the hard sand and right there, and I just went, it just dislocated, it tore, and I'm like, oh gosh. So I go up to Las Brisas and I'm like, "Hi honey." She goes, "What'd you do?" "I dislocated my shoulder." I go, "Oh shoot." So she put me on the grass, put her heel up into my arm and clunk, clunk, and just reset it. I cried like a little baby, and so now I had to rehab it. And that's where I learned a lot of this stuff, is just going through the injuries myself. And I've had big disc herniations, I've had concussions, I broke my leg, I was in a body cast. I've had so many weird, stupid injuries. But it did make me be a better doctor. And it gave me a lot of empathy for people that are hurting. So,
We need experience.
yeah. Here's interesting, we talked about restoring your posture and your range of motion. I mean, just look what ends up happening. Common postural problems, when we see people's x-rays, we see them what they do to the rest of the body, because, it's all about the posture was made, I believe, by God. I don't think it was a slime thing that it all of a sudden happened by itself. But it's made to handle the weight of gravity. So those curves and the function of those joints are so important, otherwise you're going to have problems. Kinetic chain, we've talked about just how important it is. Do this for me. Everybody stand up for a second. If you can bring your thumbs around and put your thumbs in your muscles of your back and stand straight up and down, and then I want you to put your head forward like this and see what happens to the muscles in your back. Can you feel it?
Yeah.
See how they tighten up? Why do you think they tighten up? To keep you from falling over. Yeah, so if you have loss of curve in your neck, you're going to have back issues.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's part of this kinetic chain of things that happen as a result. You can go ahead and sit back down. Common knee injuries, I already talked about that. Abnormal tracking. See, now this is exactly what I was talking about. There's the tracking issue of a right knee. There's degenerative arthritis. There's what it looks like. And when it gets to that point there on that side, that's knee replacement time. You see all those bumps, those things? Those are called cysts, subchondral cysts, from chronic inflammation all this inflammation, it's kind of like hot lava, and it goes up into the bone and creates these cysts, and it ends up turning your structures into like Swiss cheese over time. All kinds of, there's common injuries right there that you see. Yeah, now, Bay was a professional soccer player. In fact, he just played another professional game this last Sunday. And so he's had all kinds of injuries. In fact, that's how we ended up getting to know Bay. Do you mind if I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, why don't you tell?
Yeah. So I was in last year with pretty gnarly bone spur in my heel, which ended up leading to a pulled abdominal muscle just because of the way I was compensating and my hips became out of place. Long story short, pulled the ab muscle, couldn't run or do anything, could barely walk for about 2 months, and was basically in rehab for about 4 months. And I was planning to get surgery and ended up coming in here, but we did a lot of corrective work, and within that 4 months, didn't need surgery, and was back playing again within 4 months. But it was gnarly. I've broken my leg before, but the combination of those two was probably the worst I've experienced, because 9 out of 10 pain on a daily basis, couldn't get out of bed. I was 27 at the time, so anyways, a lot of the corrective work that Dr. Gary's talking about now definitely helped with that process. So.
And now he's actually just finishing up all of his training, so he's one of the physical medicine assistants that works on people here. And until he sees what he's going to do. And Marilyn says you're great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're great.
Thank
You're all
you.
great.
Excellent.
I can attest.
All right, we talked about rotator cuff tears, impingement, that's where the bursa gets impinged. Tear in the supraspinatus tendon, that's a rotator cuff tear. Shoulder socket. This is the separation at the very top where the clavicle comes and joins to the shoulder, the scapula. You can separate that. So I separated that and dislocated the head of the humerus down. So prevention, proper warm-ups, postural correction, self-care protocols to relieve pain, tissue work for proper function, mechanics, chiropractic care, stem cells. Now, there was a time when we did stem cells for people. We had a medical doctor that was working with us, and then the FDA, there was one batch of stem cells that got tainted, and about a couple people got infections from it, so the FDA just shut it down. Now, all of that has been all fixed, so it's not a problem anymore, but that was about 5 years ago. But stem cells were really a big item that we were using, a lot of them. Because of that, we shut the medical suite down that was up here, and we turned this into our therapy suite. So that's the shift on stem cells.
Do you think that stem cells were really effective?
I really do. Yeah. And there are now places, what they're using different things besides the stem cells, Wharton's jelly and different components that they get from the umbilical cord on the babies. They actually harvest those, and they get the Wharton's jelly and the stem cells, things like that. So we'll talk about that. My daughter always puts together little deals for people if you want to look closer. So let's just all stand up and let's just take you through a couple things for the shoulders. This is by far the most helpful thing that I ever learned, and this was taught to me by a guy named Peter Goskew.
Do you want Bay to come up and demonstrate
Yeah,
too?
sure.
And I'm gonna pass these out, you guys.
Yeah, what we've done is we've given you some exercises and stretches so you have some that you can go home with and utilize.
I got one.
So I'm gonna have Bay just show you real quick. This is on here, it's called the arm circles. And this was Peter Goskew, and your knuckle goes like that, perfect form. And then just do this along with Bay and try not to punch your neighbor.
Alright, so we're gonna go forward, right?
Yeah.
Thumb out, bit at
Does
the
anybody have pain at horizontal? Okay, so you have to go down lower. If you have any pain, go down, even if it's next to your side. You have to do it so you don't have any pain. Do you have pain there?
And I'm just being careful, but when I'm learning, so when I'm better.
Do you have pain there?
Not right here.
Okay, good. So then what you're gonna do is you're gonna do your whole routine where there's no pain. And the knuckles have to be like this. It's one straight, there you go.
Curled
Straight
at the
line.
First, yeah.
There you go. Just like that. Good, perfect. You're doing it perfect. You're doing it perfect, you're doing it perfect, you're doing it perfect. Everybody's doing it perfect. Good. So that's forward circles, all right? Now you're initially gonna only start maybe with 20 or 30 of them, and then you're gonna switch to the second position, but eventually you're gonna get up to 100 of these arm circles. When I taught the water polo team how to do it, these varsity water polo players were crying because they couldn't get through 100. But that's how deconditioned their rotator cuff was. Okay, next one.
Palm up,
Yep, palm up,
Palm
thumbs
up,
backwards,
thumbs
and
backwards.
backward circles.
backward circles. So same thing, but
Right.
going backwards.
There you go, that's perfect level. Good, that's exactly what you do. And you just make sure that there's no pain. If there's ever pain, drop it down where there's no pain. So when I first injured my shoulder 3.5 weeks ago, I was doing them down here because I couldn't move up at all. So now I'm up to here without pain, just in 3.5 weeks, and here without pain. And here, the last one, we call these elbow curls or butterflies, and your knuckles go here, go ahead.
Knuckleheads.
Yeah, knuckleheads.
Yep, so now at the temple, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the temple still knuckles curled.
And no bend in the wrist
No
at
bend in
all.
the
You
wrist.
gotta keep that like that. So you just roll your knuckles in on your temples and then open all the way out. Good, that's it, perfect. Does anybody have pain there?
Yes,
Okay, where?
right in here.
Okay, and can you, how far before you get to pain? Yes, can you do
Right
that? Okay, now how far when you go out before you get to pain?
Right there.
Okay, so now you gotta stay in the pain-free zone.
Okay.
Just have fun in the pain-free zone. It's okay that it's not full range of motion, but this is how you're gonna get full range of motion without pain, is doing this. But you gotta stay in the pain-free zone,
Okay.
okay? So that is what you're going to do to warm up your shoulders. Now, if you wanna stretch your posterior shoulder girdle, this is an easy way to do it. Just bring your shoulder over and push against it. Push about 4 seconds into the resistance, push about 4 seconds, and then it'll stretch further. 4 seconds, and it'll stretch
Do you
further.
want to avoid pain on that one too?
Avoid pain on that one. So I just had pain there, so I shouldn't be doing it. That's where I start to have pain. So I've got to do it here and push against. Now that already hurts, so I can't do the PNF yet. The PNF is where you push against resistance, and then the muscle contracts, and then it releases a little bit in between. So you try to push into it. I can't do PNF yet on my shoulder, so that's okay. Now I know what my limit is there. Because if you do something by contracting a muscle and it hurts, you're going to set yourself back. So let pain be your guide on all these different things. And if you have pain up here, you can't do it there yet. Okay? All right. And then the other thing is you can get next to a wall, and you probably remember this from, you get next to a wall and you just walk your fingers up the wall like that all the way up. And when it starts to hurt, don't go into it, okay? You can do that way. You can also take a towel and put it behind you, grab here, and then pull down and pull up, okay? And those are the basic stretches. If you want to, you can also do these. Always, if you're ever coming over your head, always put your thumb up. And hey, I got through all that pain-free. How about that? The treatment is working. Okay. So those are the basic stretches, and that's the best way to strengthen the rotator cuff so you don't have a problem. Now I'm going to be a pull, and you're going to be the exerciser, and put your hands in there. Now let's say you can get through all of that and there's no pain. Then you can start exercising, and with this, I'm going to have him bring his elbows up next to his shoulders, and now he's going to start doing rows backwards. Good. Go ahead and forward. Good. Good. And now we're using something light. This is how you strengthen the posterior girdle of the muscle. Anytime you're working out with weights, always remember this. Always pull before you push. Always warm up the posterior part of your shoulder before you use the anterior. So he could go like this if there's no pain. He could go like this, wrap this around a pole, and keep on doing sets of this until it starts to burn. And then you go, okay, enough of that. Now, if he wants to do pecs, he can come here and go ahead and go forward. He can do flies. Good, there's flies for the pec. Now go ahead and do like a straight push. That's tricep. Let's go straight push like a bench press.
Yep.
There you go.
Here.
Yeah. Good. Again, this is for more advanced. If you don't have pain and you want to start strengthening your muscles, you can do this kind of stuff. Okay?
That's all really good for warm-ups for surfing and volleyball and all those.
This is not the warm up.
No, not the warm-up.
No, this is the warm up.
Oh, okay.
Do this before you do anything and you'll be fine. If you fatigue the muscle with this, you're not going to be as strong when you're surfing.
Oh, okay.
This is more for exercise,
Oh,
like
exercise.
Raul was talking about going to the gym and how to get the most out of doing the gym. This was just kind of like how to not have to pay for a gym membership, but using bands. Yeah.
So you should do rows.
Yeah, you can do rows here. You can
Yeah,
show them how to
on
do a
your
row.
Here.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much these little rubber bands can help you.
Go here.
Yeah.
And row up.
Yep. Exactly. For the posterior shoulder
Rows
girdle.
before bench press.
Yes. Always pull before you push.
Okay.
And you want to know why? Because most people are always doing activities in front of their body. We're here. We're overdeveloped in our chest and our anterior muscles, and underdeveloped in our posterior. So always do a pull routine before you ever push. Yeah. Okay? Good. Good job.
Your chin ups before you press.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, always pull before. Yeah.
And is
So
that-
pull downs, rowing, upright rows, all that before you do any bench, any overhead shoulder stuff. Okay?
The idea behind that is that you've got the most amount of energy and the most amount of strength starting, and so you want to fatigue a little bit. Is that?
Yeah, well, it's mostly to stabilize the shoulder because most people are already overdeveloped because they're all this front
Okay.
activity, and most people's shoulders are rounded. You look at their hands when you're doing a postural assessment, and almost everybody's hands are like this.
What are they supposed to
They're
be?
already, they're supposed to be neutral like that,
And on the side.
not like that. They should be like that. But if you just look, if you weren't thinking about it, you look and a lot of people, swimmers are like this.
Yeah.
Because they're going into the water like this and pulling. So a lot of swimmers' shoulders, shoulder, internal rotation problem. They don't have enough strength in the external rotators. And so, you'll commonly see people doing rehab on their shoulder, working their external rotators, and they're doing this kind of stuff, right? Not as much this kind of stuff where there would be, this is internal rotation.
Yeah.
Most people already have too much internal rotation. They need external rotation. Okay? Okay, any questions about the shoulders? Is that helpful? Okay, good. So now let's just talk about the knees. One of the very best knee exercises you can do yourself is called a wall sit. Now this is if it doesn't hurt. Now, probably one of the best things to do is if you want to just warm your knees up, you can just get against a wall and just start doing little bends to fatigue. You're going to get some glute, some hamstring, and some quad, but this is mostly going to be a quad exercise. If you want to get really advanced and it doesn't hurt at all, and you really want to strengthen your quads, you could go down there and then just hold it and see how long you can hold for it. But if you've got a tracking issue, don't do this. You don't want to do strengthening exercises if you've got tracking issues. You need to redevelop and fix that tracking issue before you start to exercise it, because you're just going to get worse. Okay? Another thing, why don't you lie on your back real quick and just show them what a bridge looks like.
Here.
Yeah.
So you're going toes up or toes down? You're going
Just
regular?
flat.
Okay. So
There's a bridge, and you can hold that. And if you want to get extra good, just take the right leg and bring it straight out now. Good, and now do leg up and down. Good, so this is more advanced stuff. You start with the basics. Just do a bridge and hold it. See if there's any pain there. If not, and you want to get a little bit more progressive and work your core, you can go ahead and do leg ups on one leg. Okay? And that will actually work more your glutes and your hamstrings in that one. So the wall sit for your quads. And then if you wanted to work your, why don't you put that around your ankle real quick?
All the way around.
Yeah. So if you wanted to work your lateral compartment, because there's basically 4 compartments to our knee: anterior, lateral, medial, and posterior, right? So let's just say that in my assessment, I'm finding there's certain muscles that are weak, and we already know they could just be deconditioned. And we also have checked to see if there's nerve supply issues. But go ahead and stand up. So let's just say we want to work his anterior or his medial compartment. So he's going to attach this over onto the leg around the couch. He can put this through, and now he's got his own exercise gym, and he's going to start doing medial compartment exercises that way. Okay? And you can just basically go till you burn, as long as you're not hurting. Now we're going to go, no, that was medial. Now we're going to do lateral compartment exercises. Right?
Would you suggest them holding on to something if they're balanced?
Sure. Yeah. And then if you want to work glutes and hamstrings, you wrap it on here and he starts going backwards.
Straight leg.
Yeah, straight leg. And you can really feel your glute engage. Your glute's the strongest muscle in your body.
All that helps your knees.
Pardon?
All this helps your knees.
Yeah. And then if you wanted to work with resistance on the front, you can basically now start working the quads that way. Okay? Same thing, go ahead and take that off. Same thing with the shoulder. Once you get to the point where you can do pain-free range of motion and you're not in pain anymore, then you can take every single, I showed you this, but for volleyball players, I have them put, I'm not going to use my right arm. So just stand behind me for a second. So I'll have them get here and start hitting and really developing their snap, and so that they can hit the ball a lot harder, right? So you can basically do your, not only this, but after you've warmed up the posterior compartment, like we talked about posterior back, you just hold that up there for a second. Now here I'm going to work triceps for the posterior compartment before I work my biceps, because it's posterior muscle, and then put that underneath your foot. And then I'm going to start working biceps here, but after I've already opened up and strengthened the posterior compartment, right? So let's see. We handled the arthritis process. We handled frozen shoulder and how the mechanics of the kinematics lead to it. The instability with the shoulders really would depend on what's causing instability. It makes me really curious to want to find out what would cause instability with your shoulders. It makes me think perhaps there's a developmental weakness of certain muscles. I would be really interested in finding out why that's happening. It's something.
He's in construction, so he's like,
It hasn't happened recently.
yeah,
Not really recently.
lots of overhead stuff. Both of us, lots of overhead.
Yeah. Well, before, are you on the job with a hammer and doing that kind of stuff?
Yeah, not a lot of hammer stuff, but I'm lifting beams overhead lots
Okay.
of times, and
Boom, this will be your key. Get on the job site, give 100 here, 100 here, and 100 here. They're gonna say, oh, where are you flying to? Oh, you going to Pennsylvania or whatever. They're gonna do all kinds of stuff, but it doesn't matter, cause you're gonna be the one that's not hurting their shoulder. Yeah. We talked about you and that one muscle we found that wasn't stabilizing your shoulder movement. Yeah. You've gotta stay in your pain-free zone down there. You have got to make sure that that tracking issue gets fixed so you don't have to require, you know, a knee replacement. And that's really easy to figure out. This stuff is really, it may seem complex, but my goal was to try to show you sometimes it's just the simple things that, you know, lead to the big result. And Raul, hopefully the warm-ups for your training and everything will really help you along the way.
Well, it work too, because I gotta use a binder bar to tie down material on a flatbed.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
Equal amount of force.
Yeah. Well, you know, with the city workers, I did safety talks for them, and I showed them how to warm up their back, warm up their shoulders, so that they were less likely to have injuries. And even that little routine, forwards, backwards, could really help you.
I'll do it.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Any other questions anybody has about anything that I can make more, give more value to the evening for you? Yeah? All right. So what my daughter did, Mo, are you still here? Did she leave? Okay. Do you want to just tell them what she always gives everybody a little gift at the end? So, and I've got to get to an appointment, so I'm gonna go. And thank you for cleaning up and putting everything away, getting ready for tomorrow morning. All right.
That was so informational, huh? And like I learned things. I didn't even know that the shoulder was only connected in one place to the bones. I was like, what? That's crazy. You learn something new every day. So we are doing a little gift for you guys. If you want to do an assessment a little bit more in depth on the shoulders or the knees, that's where Dr. G can tell you specifically if you've got a tracking issue, where the adhesions are, all that good stuff, and kind of like what we would recommend for you in terms of treatment. We'll do a structural assessment for you. This includes postural x-rays too, which is really cool because you get to see exactly where your posture is. Kind of like he was saying, we can prevent all that degeneration when we have proper posture. And a lot of times that stuff we never know until we do postural x-rays and we can really see where the body's holding mechanically. So the special is basically a full chiropractic assessment, neurological assessment, looks at all the adhesion patterns, and then we do x-rays as well. So typically it's $297. We're doing a special for $157 if you sign up tonight. I can just schedule you in the back. But with that too, it'll be 2 days. So the first day is like the assessment. The second day is where we sit down, we go through the x-rays with you and kind of go through the recommendations and all that good stuff. With that too, one thing that we do is we build a very specified, I think my computer died. We build a specified home care protocol. So this one here that you've got is, you know, very kind of a general good thing for knees and shoulders. When we do postural x-rays, we build a very specific home care based on your x-rays. So it's going to be wherever your neck curve is at. We talk through, we'll give you kind of the general, the prolordonic, and all these good things to start aligning everything. So that's a super cool thing that we do too. So if you want to do that, I'll just meet you in the back and we'll get you scheduled. And then the next workshop we have coming up is on August 23rd, it's a Wednesday night. That one's going to be with Dr. Lisa. So she's Dr. Gary's wife, my mom. She's going to do a little bit more of like the biochem focus. So she's going to talk about fatigue and stress management. She'll talk a lot about like adrenals, thyroid, nutrition, supplementation, support for all that. That's going to be a really good one. Because I feel like most of us have had some stress in our life, right? So we can all figure out how to manage that well. So if you want to join us for that, please do. Make sure you're on our email list so we let you know when the events are coming up. And then, does anybody have any questions for me, either about anything tonight or anything that we do? Anything that came up for you guys? No? Okay, cool. Good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Helpful. You're welcome. Thank you for coming, you guys, and come again and invite your friends to the next workshop. It's always fun to have the community in.